Yo, this is Afro, a.k.a. All Flows Reach Out, and you're listening to Built for This Network. Yes, sir. From the building, stay bomb.
It's official. Style Guys is trending for the holiday season. Located 1252 Burnham Ave in Calumet City. Being black owned and operated with new items weekly, in store, and even online. And with over 50,000 followers online, you can't miss out. Sales going on till 2022. Like jogging suits, hoodies, t-shirts, Jordan Craig, smoke rise, crisp, sweaters, and so much more. So beat the lines and order online from Style Guys, 1252 Burnham Ave in Calumet City. Contact them today at 708-801-9481. Again, 708-801-9481. Or check them out from Tuesday to Saturday from noon to 7 p.m. or Sundays from noon to 5 p.m. Style Guys, 1252 Burnham Ave in Calumet City. Life, fashion, style. Follow some of the newest styles by Style Guys in Calumet City. Lock in The Style Guys on IG or look them up, thestyleguys.com. Gone wild!
Feeling myself, but I stay in my lane. I know you thinking you nice, but you sounding the same. He need to switch up his flow, but I know that he ain't. Maybe he want to and probably can't. He talk a lot, but ain't saying a word. He's 16, sounding like he be lacing his herbs. Reggie Rock told me time to just focus and spit. Quit worrying about the niggas abandoning shit. I dropped broken and they told me quit biting your tongue. The way you writing sounded like you forgot where you from. Say you from the hood, but you sound like a minister now. Yeah, I could take it there, but shit, I just like how this sound. I should address some of this drama, but letting it go. Shit, I can't keep playing with you niggas, I'm getting too old. The last words Bone told me I never forget. Quit playing with this music and do it to death. Shit, I came back.
You are listening to the End of the Bench podcast on Built for This Network, hosted by my man HRap.
Good evening. It's HRap from Built for This Network. This is the End of the Bench podcast, Rappin with HRap. Thank you for tuning in. This is a unique podcast in itself. Well, it's not unique. Well, it is unique. Whatever. This is a podcast, and what I do on Friday evenings is speak with people about their lives. And what we're going to do is stand in the gap. I'm going to stand in the gap. I definitely believe that there is a generational and cultural gap in the community, that's in the community and or other places. What I want to do is put that situation to bed. I want to make sure we as a community are in touch with each other. We understand the struggles that we've made, and we put ourselves in a situation to where we can understand each other. So going forward on Friday evenings, I will be speaking with people about their lives and their individual struggles and trials and tribulations and things to help you understand who we are. No matter where we live, we have more things in common than things that separate us. And as usual, this is a podcast. And going forward, podcast every day besides Tuesday. If I'm on air, I will be recording the podcast live, and then I will upload it to Built for This Network on Spreaker.com. Built for This Network on Spreaker.com for audio purposes. I want the best possible sound imaginable. And again, I know with the Spreaker.com community, there's a culture of speaking to everybody that comes in. I will just acknowledge you as saying thank you, everybody, for coming in. And the reason I'm doing that is because we want to stay focused. We want to make sure the person who's on the other end of the situation is getting my full and undivided attention, and then we can move smoothly and keep it going. With that being said, when you get ready to listen to this at a later time, you can come to YouTube, The End of the Bench, THAENDOFDABENCH, The End of the Bench. You can follow this on theendofthebench.com, www.theendofthebench.com. It is streaming live currently, theendofthebench.com, and later this evening or tomorrow, later this evening, definitely, you can find it on Spreaker.com, or you can go to Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you download your podcast. And you know what I do at the beginning of every show. I acknowledge my family. That is everybody connected to these last names. That is Pollards, Whitmores, Pattersons, Turners, Battles, Cottons, Harpers, Bailey, Shaws, Walkers, Thompson, Chris, Lansdowne, Liggins, Duncan, Fitch, Trotter, Brandy, Brandon, Johnson, Wilson, and you know I am me, my mother, my father, sisters, brothers, cousins, aunts and uncles. We are the Williams clan, and we're always in the building. This evening, I'll be having a conversation with New Liberia's own Kevin Johnson. We affectionately know him as RaiderKev. We're going to talk about his life growing up in New Iberia, because, again, there's a disconnect in the community. And the more that we talk to people about their different experiences and the lives that they in happenstances and situations in their lives, the more we connect, and the more we can solve this gap. You know, the more we can shrink this gap. If we shrink the gap, we can make the community a better place to be in. And with that being said, welcome aboard. What's good, Raider?
What's happening, man? Doing pretty good, man. I'm in the remote studio this evening.
Okay, my man,
so it's all good.
Good to see you, man. Let's just jump right into it, man. You know, people know you from Spreaker.com, the Two Live Stew crew that branched off into other situations, and now you recently joined. Thank you for being on the Edge Facebook thing. I'm not sure who that is. If you are on Facebook, what you have to do is click the thing so your name will pop up, then I know who I'm talking to. And again, you guys can engage as well in the chat room. It's just I don't want to be rude, but to stop and say hello, it's kind of pointless, you know. But like I was saying, Kev, thank you for being on here, man. Thank you for sharing your walk through your life. Let's just start at the very beginning. It is November 1965. The world is introduced, New Iberia, Louisiana. The world is introduced to one Kevin Johnson. Talk to me about your earliest memories, and we can walk right up until 5 minutes ago.
Okay, well, I'm from a little town called New Iberia, Louisiana, right? Mm-hmm. It's in the Acadiana area. Some people might be familiar with that, but the town is worldwide known for Tabasco sauce. Okay, it used to say New Iberia on the bottle. Now they say some Fugazi town, Avery Island. It's New Iberia, Louisiana. That's where the birthplace of Tabasco sauce. Okay, so
I like it.
Clear. Yeah,
I like it.
So it was a very modest small town, but you know, as a kid, man, I didn't, that was my world, so I didn't know any difference, right? So I thought New Iberia was great. I really did. I had good parents that shielded me away from a lot of the negativities that was going on, right? They did their best to try to keep me focused on being the best I could be, right?
Mhm.
But the world is always going to reveal itself. I don't care how much your parents try to hide or disguise it, right? The world is always going to, reveal itself. So, I remember when I first, got introduced to this. In our town, man, we had like one main street, okay, called Main Street, and we used to go. My father used to take us down there. They had a little park. Used to take us down there, and and I was the oldest, so my sister probably didn't remember any of this stuff, right? Because she was real young at the time. We like 4 years apart, right? And he took us downtown, and my father he's in the school system, okay? So a lot of people knew him, right? So it was very, gratifying when you walk past someone, black, white, or indifferent, they would always recognize him because this town was so small to where you only had, basically, two middle schools, one high school, and you had maybe 3 or 4 elementary schools feeding that system, So it was very hard to miss because he was in the, for the most part, in the middle school guidance counselor and teacher and this and that. Coach, he was a coach also. So most of the kids had to be exposed to him at some point. So a lot of people knew him in town, right? So I would go through town and it would be very gratifying, man, that your father was like, he was like a superstar. You know what I'm saying? Everybody knew him. Everybody would, hey, how you doing, Mr. Johnson? But sometimes, like I said, the world exposes itself, right? Mm-hmm. You would see the hatred sometimes because even though he had a great personality, he was very outgoing, and people liked him. It almost, you can, even as a kid, I can see how people, certain people looked at him with disdain. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? I don't want to use the words, but what this boy, with all this gratification and good communication with, man, what is this recognition? You know what I'm saying? What is this? And you could just see it. And so you just, I don't know, man. It's just growing up in the South, and I'm beginning to understand some of the same things we had in the South that I dealt with was happening all over, But growing up in the South, man, they didn't hide their hatred, and it has gotten better, but I'm not sure if it's just gotten better. They have gotten better at disguising it, or if it actually their mindset has gotten better, because I wonder that all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, would this be considered rural Louisiana? Is this mid, the central, northern, southern?
Well, the New Iberia is, I would consider, in the city in the center of the state, south central. That's okay. A good way of putting it, right? It's the south part of the state, but sort of toward the middle, and it's pretty close to the Gulf. I would say within an hour from the Gulf.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what were the racial dynamics? Because in the South, well, being a Northerner, didn't spend a lot of time in the southern part of the country. Never even Louisiana, one of the very few states that I've never even just driven through. I've never touched it at all. Talk to me about the cultural dynamics, the racial dynamics. Louisiana, like when you're from outside of the state, Baton Rouge is sports. It's all LSU.
Right.
And then Louisiana is music, the jazz, the food, the da-da-da-da. You mentioned the Tabasco sauce. What's the dynamic there outside of Tabasco sauce? What's going on in New Iberia?
Well, as far as let's talk about like the main money makers in that area, right? Tabasco sauce, right? There's so many. Just about all your major Louisiana hot sauces are made in that area. comes from that area.
Okay.
The other dynamic is sugarcane. So sugarcane is one of the biggest crops in that area. Like in Iowa and up, corn and wheat or whatever.
Right.
It's sugar. Sugar is the biggest dry, one of the biggest dry. I would, to be honest with you, hot sauce is probably put you on the map, but sugarcane fed more families.
Okay.
Yeah, that fed more families.
Okay.
And that part of Louisiana, you haven't heard the term Creole?
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So in that area, you had a lot of French settlers, French and white people settled that area, right? So Creole came about because of the merger of those two. So you had, I guess, a little bit of black folks also, right? But you had a lot of French, white mixture, and they actually would call it Creole. Okay, they spoke differently. A lot of times, man, a lot of people say they don't hear my dialect or whatever. It doesn't seem like I'm from Louisiana, right?
Okay.
There, even my family, people in my family, they sound a lot different than I do. Okay, but when I grew up, in the 70s, right? They were, I would say, a third of the people probably didn't even speak real English. It was a. Go ahead.
Is that Geechee?
Well, yeah, we didn't really call it Geechee.
Okay.
That's a term I think maybe have evolved. When I grew up, it was just Creole.
Okay.
We just called it Creole, right? But there were a lot of people, especially the old, like let's say late 60s, mid 70s. There were a lot of people in my area didn't speak English. They spoke Creole. And so the communication gap was off sometimes, and I never learned it. I mean, it's something like Jamaican, how they speak, right? It's like a broken English. So you can understand what they're saying, but you're not getting every detail of the sentence. You kind of understand what they're trying to say, but it's kind of broken up. And it was the same way. They wasn't speaking real French. It was Creole. That's basically what they called it, right?
That's dope.
And it evolved in, the food was different. It was that Creole, and they, every now it's just called Cajun, right? But that Creole cooking evolved from that. It's really rich, man. The heritage is real rich, and it's just that the dynamic, man, it's really strange, So when I grew up, especially in the 70s, when I started, liking girls and stuff like that, right? The dynamic was different, okay? Because in most places you had black and white, right? Okay. We had black, white, and what we called mulatto.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I've heard of that.
Right. Now,
before you move forward, explain to the people what mulatto is, just in case they've never heard of it.
Okay, so mulatto is basically in essence, is a black and a white person.
Okay.
Mixing and having a child.
Okay.
Right. But in that area, the different little spin to it, or recipe in there, is that Creole. So you would have more like a Creole person with a black person, and that would basically make mulatto. Okay, because you would see more of a African features, right? But they were light skinned. Good hair, light skin. Okay. So
let me ask you one more question before you go. Historically, you know me, anybody know me and listen to any of the shows, I'm a big time history buff. What was the Haitian presence down there? Because before the Haitians went off to Haiti, they kicked a little butt down there in Louisiana, then went on over to Haiti. and
Right.
that's what really started the Louisiana Purchase and all that.
Right.
What was the Haitian dynamic down there?
I think they were a bigger presence in New Orleans. In
Okay.
my area, we didn't really. I didn't know any Haitians at all.
Okay.
In my
Okay.
area.
Okay.
They
okay.
were, but when I had a lot of family in New Orleans, and I
Okay.
spent a lot of summers up there, and I was introduced to a lot of Haitians then. But
Okay.
I couldn't really give you their dynamic or their influence in New Orleans because I kind of just stayed, because New Orleans is very dangerous, man. You got to really watch where you're stepping, and then especially in the 70s, man, you really had to, New Orleans was very territorial, right?
Okay.
So if you didn't know where you was going, you better be with somebody that know where they're going.
Okay. My man.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, my area, Haitians never really, I didn't know any, to be honest with you.
Okay. Well, let's get back to the mulattoes. I'm sorry for interrupting you. It was just something that popped in my head, and I wanted to touch on it.
Yeah. So, they, it was real funny, man, because have you ever heard the what do they call it, the brown paper bag theory?
Oh yeah, the brown paper bag test.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Well, look, I'm telling you, man, you dated a girl, right, down there. And one of the questions, man, when you first start to, hanging out and dating, and not dating, but not dating, just talking, right?
Right.
One of the questions you want to ease into the conversation is, your family bothered with that paper bag, and everybody know what you're talking about.
Wow.
Because if you know that's what her family is about, then hey, my color, right? I'm not really dark, but I'm certainly don't pass the paper bag test. Okay,
right.
I'll tell you that right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you know that going in, you know how far you can go with this. A, you ain't getting married. B, you ain't gonna be in a house.
Wow.
And,
hey man, you know what, man? Expound on that, Kev, because a lot of the people that support me, thank y'all for supporting Built for This Network, and Into the Bench, several podcasts across the spectrum. Talk to them about the brown. I know what the brown paper bag test is, but somebody who watching now or in the future may not know. Please explain, because that's that colonized mind. Just keep it in lockstep. But go ahead, please explain that. Please.
So basically, what it was, some families took it literally. They would literally have a brown paper bag. When you walked in the door, they would put that brown paper bag next to your face. And if you was darker than that brown paper bag, you definitely could forget coming in their house and spending time.
And make sure the people know these brothers.
Yeah. These brothers, right?
Brothers and sisters doing it.
Now, the daughter, for sure, you ain't dealing with her. Now, if you were, let's say, let's see what this. Let me think of a scenario. Let's say you a dude, right? Mm-hmm. And your homeboy is mulatto, right? Mm-hmm. And you walk in the house, that would even apply to him, because what they would think about is this: it's a mindset. Their mindset is just like some white folks. Okay, if you hanging with this dude, you're gonna think like this dude, and obviously you are superior to this dude because he's darker than that brown paper bag.
Wow.
That's how deep it was.
And this is in the 70s.
Yeah, the 70s. The 70s. Because I didn't have this consciousness until I started mingling with other people. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So around 14, 15, 16 years old, I got introduced to this. You know what I'm saying? And that's right in the 70s. That's, latter part of the 70s.
Right.
So, yeah, man, that brown paper bag is a real thing. A real thing.
I heard of it with people going towards sororities for a very long time. The AKAs, if you was darker than the brown paper bag, you weren't gonna be an AKA.
Right.
So yeah. I mean, and I shout out to my homegirl Latoya Bibbs. She an AKA. Got a couple homegirls who support the program who are AKAs, and no disrespect, but I remember hearing that, and that was in the 80s and the 90s.
Right.
Yeah, man. So, but go ahead and finish. New Iberia, mulattoes. Go.
Yeah. So that was the thing, man. They really they really applied that theory, that mindset, so you not only growing up, you had to deal with the whites, right? But you had to deal with them also. So you felt like a third class citizen. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And I guess today that's how I could relate to Hispanics, you know what I'm saying? Because in a way it's that same type of dynamic, it's like you're not even, okay, for one thing, white folks gonna always be on your neck.
Right.
Now you got somebody that pretty much look like you, and they on your neck too. You know what I'm saying? So, and then, talking about like some of the girls would take that to, look, man, there was a much better chance in a lot of girls, right, to deal with a white girl than a mulatto girl, because I'm telling you, man, a white girl, you just rebellious.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I'm dealing with me a brother. Yeah. A mulatto is thinking,
I'm not going to lose my slot.
Yeah, I'm lowering myself. You
Wow.
see what I'm saying? So no, man. So when you got one that was cool, which I like, just be honest with you, I never had that problem because I like dark-skinned women. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So I didn't really have that problem. And be honest with you, to totally honest with you, I'm more about what's in your head. I want to know how you think. I ain't really worried about your complexion for the most part. But what really attracts me is darker skinned women. So I never really had that issue.
I got one more question for you since we on this topic. Okay, for decades, for centuries, the dark-skinned black woman has been shunned. Right. A lot of brothers, especially me and you a few years apart. We in the same ballpark though. For years, the light-skinned black woman, even without the South and the Creole and the paper bag test, we've always been angled towards the Jane Kennedy, the Denise Nichols, the Holly Berry. They've always been seen as better. So when you're in a situation where you got the octoroons and the mulattoes and all this nonsense, was the dark-skinned sisters down there killing it?
In my mind, it was.
No, I'm just saying from a social standpoint, where because you're not going up tier. Right. You're either gonna go bottom of the, and this is just from the social standard. Not I don't want nobody to think I think that the darker people are the one thing and the lighter people something else. You either socially at the bottom of the barrel or at the top of the barrel, because like you said, the people in the middle wasn't messing with. They were socially, in their mind, they were socially climbing. Right. So were the dark-skinned sisters just the cream of the crop, or were they still getting dumped on?
Well, I think they had issues. I think they, I think it was basically how you saw things, because there was a lot of dark-skinned sisters, man, was killing it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. We had some, and I think a lot of it was that we had some teachers. Now, I'm not good as you, man. I can't remember all these teachers' names, man.
Because you don't try. That's all that is. You don't try.
But we had.
I bet you I could play a song, and you could play it from the 70s, and you can sing along.
I don't even know about that. But anyway, we had some great teachers, right? That I think built a lot of a lot of us up. Didn't allow our color to hold us back. You know what I'm saying? So the ones that gravitated to that teaching were very strong. Okay. And had a very strong will, and they were killing it. You know what I'm saying? But I think any person that doesn't see themselves as powerful, they're not going to project that attitude or that image. So yeah, I mean, I'm not. It's really hard to say like a percentage of who was killing. You know what I'm saying? But they were a lot of dark-skinned women that had a great influence, in the community. And in my mind, the way I see it, I think they were killing it. You know what I'm saying? I do. I really do. But I think it's really for them to really speak on that. I'm not sure how they were thinking, But in my mind, they were killing it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Please continue.
Yeah. So yeah, so it was just a situation, man, where you really had to, understand. I don't want to say your place, but understand the rules. That's a good way of putting it. You had to really understand the rules, because you had so many people running so many different games. You had white folks running their game. They want to be superior, right? You had mulattoes want to, in essence, I mean, this is going to be strange, but this is the way I saw it, right? It's like they wanted to keep their gene line going strong. You know what I'm saying?
I've heard it.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, that was kind of silly to me. You know what I'm saying? In essence, what you really, and look, I'm gonna tell you something else. This is another thing too. Although they didn't want you, a dark-skinned person, they didn't want you dealing with a white person either. So it wasn't like one of their daughters could go get a white boy and they'll be happy. No, it's almost like you had to stick to your color. That was crazy about it also, So, we used to, me and the boys used to have a little thing. Man, look, they keep that thing so tight. It's like they sleeping with their own folks. You know what I'm saying?
Believe it or not, I mean, they didn't have titles, but they had the same thing going on up here in Chicago. I remember, I've heard elders say this, like, me and you, we would be black.
Mm-hmm.
And that, that shade right above us, that Blair Underwood shade,
mm-hmm.
They would literally call him colored.
Wow. Okay.
He wouldn't be black. I've heard elders say that. So
yeah,
it's a sad commentary. It's different. It's different vernacular no matter where you are. I mean, depending on what state you're in, but I'm very familiar with it, and it's not. And I ain't do no studying for that. I'm just living, and
right.
I've heard friends literally tell a sister this: "You cute to be a dark skinned girl."
Right. Yeah.
So it's a sad commentary, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Please continue, man. I'm digging this, bro.
Yeah. So it was just strange, man. It really was strange. Living with that dynamic, and it was you really had, like I said, you had to know the rules, man, because if you overstep, you really would put somebody in a bad place. You could really dig a person, right? And they having to deal with their family. And it's kind of hard to have to deal with that all the time. You know what I'm saying? So I just, a lot of times, bro, I would just avoid it, man. And I don't know if that's what formed my love for darker skinned women, because I didn't want to deal with that. I don't know if that's what it was. Maybe I'm just thinking, this thought is coming organically in my mind, because I really didn't want to deal with it, man. Because I thought it was senseless, to be honest with you. How in the hell you're going to have a problem with, because you the N-word to them too. You might not want to realize it. You know what I'm saying? You can say whoever you are, but you ain't nothing but an N. You know what I'm saying? So that's it.
Remember school days? Samuel Jackson said it. Y'all N-words just like us.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, man. Talk to me about elementary school. Let's go.
Okay. So, fun fact, man. So, I'm really gonna tell my age now, man. So, my first grade class, not kindergarten, my first grade class was the first class in New Iberia, Louisiana, to be integrated. The very first class. So that year, in the high city, so I said we only had one high school, right? Okay. But in essence, that's the system that I grew up in. The system right before I came to school or started school, we actually had two. You had a black high school and you had a white high school. Okay. And what they did was that year, now, of course, I didn't experience that. I was in first grade, But that year, what they did was made the black high school actually a freshman, just freshman high. That's what we called it, freshman high. And then the white high school, you had sophomores, juniors, and seniors.
Okay.
Right. So that was the first year. So I can't speak on the high school, but I heard a lot of stories about fights, about, there was a lot of tension because that was, they integrated that year when I was first grade.
Oh, so they didn't start at first grade and let it build up.
No.
They did everybody at once.
Right.
It was one fell swoop.
Right. Everybody in one fell swoop. Right. Exactly.
Oh yeah,
Exactly.
I'm quite sure there's a lot of tension.
Yeah.
You fresh off the what is that? The civil rights movement.
Right.
Dick murdering the Dr. King, and you still got people like George Wallace, couple states over,
right,
acting a fool and clowning. Well, actually, by the 70s, he was a little better.
Right.
But damn, that's hard.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Talk to me, man. Let me hear some of them stories, man.
So let's go back a little bit. Let's go to actually kindergarten, right?
Okay.
So in kindergarten, of course, I remember just being all blacks, right? All black kids, right? All black
Hold on, wait a minute. You remember kindergarten?
Yeah, I do.
The same kindergarten you tell me you can't remember? Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Wait, hey, I can't give you no names of nobody in kindergarten, but I can remember experiences.
Oh, okay.
But so in kindergarten, man, you had in fact, it was very cool because I had one of my aunts was a teacher, was one of the teachers, right? So she really watched over me and took care of me. But the part I remembered was how close we were, right? I think every person, every kid got along. We got along so well, right? And the reason why I mention that is because that dynamic changed drastically. Don't any better, right? It's still, you can tell probably these white folks had put it into their kids' minds, the negativity of being in school with these black kids. You know what I'm saying? Because we were cool. We didn't, I don't remember us caring. I really don't. I don't remember us caring at all, right? But I can feel the tension and the separation. So I can remember it was almost like we were integrated, but still separate. When I can remember, like, in the cafeteria, we all hung together.
Mm-hmm.
Very few white folks, white kids, was in the same group with the black kids,
Mm-hmm.
and that bond we built in kindergarten really helped us to deal with these little issues. You know what I'm saying? Because kids, man, we just want to play. But then when you go, I can remember. Look, I'm gonna tell you a story, man.
Look at that word again. Remember,
right? I remember this time, man. We was on a swing set, okay, and it was, I don't know, it's just a coincidence. It really wasn't, we didn't like no girls back then, right? But I can remember one of my friends, we were pushing our female friend, right? And we was pushing them on the swing, right? And I remember they had 4 swings. Don't you know those other 2 swings remained empty until we were finished? Once we were finished, the white kids would go. And the 2 swings that we used was the last 2 to be used.
Wow.
It was like, oh damn, I
guess
guess
we
gotta
get
behind the blacks,
Right.
But yeah, it was crazy, man. I don't remember any teachers. Now there was one teacher, I forgot her name. I just didn't like her. I don't know if there was any racial issues with her, because I wasn't old enough to recognize that, but I just didn't like her, right? But she's the only white teacher that I can remember all the way to like maybe the 5th grade that I really didn't like. But what I did have a problem with was our principal. Our principal was, in my mind, and my father made me realize this also, he was determined to paddle because back then they paddled, right? He was determined to paddle every black kid. He was determined, right?
Wow.
And my father refused to let it happen. He refused. So there was this story. It was in the 2nd grade. I was a good kid, man. I never really got in any trouble. The first time I actually got in trouble.
Slow down.
What
was the last thing you said?
What's that?
You was a good kid.
I was, man. I was a great kid, man. I was quiet. I paid attention. You know, I didn't cause no problems. Man, I had a great sense of humor.
Wait a minute.
Great kid.
I just want you to know, God listens to this podcast. Okay, well, go ahead and finish the story. I just want you to know, God listens to this podcast. If you drop dead right now, look at the lie you going to hell for. I'm just saying.
Anyway, so I remember, man, a lot of my friends, man, they was throwing rocks outside the school gate, right? And they would get in trouble.
Just your friends, though, huh?
Huh?
Just your friends, huh?
Yeah, it was. I'm being honest. It was just my friend. I'm talking about before this incident. Just hold on, man. Hold on. I'm going to get to my troubles.
Oh, okay.
So they were throwing rocks, right? And they would get in trouble for it, right? So the one day I decide to throw rocks with them, the principal comes up and calls us all into the office, right? So we go in the office, and the procedure was you had to get, if you had a paddle sheet already signed, right? He'll paddle you right then and there, right? I didn't have a paddle sheet, so I had to take it home. He had my offense written out and permission to paddle. Well, my old man, he had to go to work, right? No, he didn't go to work that day. The next day, he drove me to school, and I'm not inside the office so I didn't hear the whole conversation. I just heard a little bit. But what I do remember hearing was, "I be damned if you whip my boy." You know what I'm saying? So he refused to sign the paddle sheet, and I got 3 days suspension. You know, and he told me, and that whole day we spent together, which I thought was dope. Man, I can remember that day. I thought it was dope. So we went to the park.
Oh, you can remember something that happened in 1st grade?
Yes. I could even. Hey, I give you this. I can even remember my daddy's name. Ain't that something?
I'm just saying, you know. I remember something that's amazing. You remember stuff from the same time period, and it's just natural.
I remember incidences, bro. I can't remember names like that.
Okay. I can.
Anyway,
go right ahead.
So I remember him telling me, he said, "Kev, you're gonna always be facing this dilemma. White people are always gonna make it harder for you because you have to be perfect." He said, "I know there's some white kids that's throwing rocks." He said, "But the only kids that were in trouble were the black kids." And I got to thinking, I said, "Well, how you know that, Dad?" He said, "Because, you know," and this was, I guess, was his way of telling me, I got eyes. You in school, I got eyes everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. So he told me, he said, "Well, I got friends that were, that was watching y'all. You know, I got friends in the school system all over, from elementary to high school, you know, and we talked. And they called me. When you got in trouble, they called me, right? Mm-hmm. And so, and one of my first questions was, did he take it to the white kids? Because I know there were some white kids. And I said, "Well, Dad, you know what? It was just the black kids." He said, "Yeah, that's why." He said, "For one thing, I ain't letting no white man whip you. That's one thing. Now, if you deserve the whipping, I'll do it. But I'll be damned if I'm let him do it." You know what I'm saying? So he said, "So don't ever, if anyone tries to whip you, you make sure you tell them, 'Do you have a paddle sheet? Have you talked to my father?' Because if they touch you, they're gonna have a case on their hand." You know, and I'm in 2nd grade, right? So he's letting me know, right? So, but yeah, man, that was a deal, man. I don't know what it is, man. I know what it is. They want to put their hands on you. You know, that's the bottom line. You know, mm-hmm. But Yeah, I really appreciate that about my father, man. He saw that whole dynamic, man, didn't fall into it because, hey, there was a lot of black kids had their parents sign that sheet. And that white man was able to whip that butt, you know? But I was fortunate my father saw the evils in that.
Okay. Now, we ain't gonna go first grade, second grade, third grade. For you early in your life, your father clearly has connections throughout the school system. You working your way through this new experience with interracial things, a colonized mind, conditioning, and you dealing with just being black in America. What's the next thing that stands out in your memory from your youth?
Well, it goes. I'm gonna tell you a story about paddling again. Okay, so when I got to, I can't remember exactly what grade I was in. It was middle school. Well, no, it wasn't middle school. It was like maybe fourth or fifth, somewhere in that area. We changed schools. My parents had built a house, and we changed where I went to elementary. And I had a black principal, right? This man, and I'm not saying I don't know him like that. I never really knew what type of man he really was. I just view as a kid what I saw in him, right? Mm-hmm. To me, he was the kind of man that wanted to show his dominance, and he wanted to over compensate for dealing with black kids. His purpose, this is his words. This was his words. He said it openly on more than one occasion. My goal is to whip every black kid in this school. Let that sink in for a second. Openly saying this in front of white kids, black kids, white teachers, black teachers. He would openly walk down, where I actually heard him say it the first time. When you're outside, after school, you're outside, you're waiting for your parents to come pick you up. So all the kids are out there, and kids are doing kids things, right? He would have his paddle with him, right? And he'd be walking, and he'd just be hitting it in his hand, right? Yeah, before the end of the school year, every black kid gonna feel this paddle, and he just hit it in his hand, right?
What the principals getting extra money for whipping ass?
Hey man, I don't know, but that was his goal, man. And this is the thing, when I was a kid, I didn't think about it in this dynamic, right? But as an adult, I thought about it. This not the first time. I thought about it a long time ago. Mm-hmm. How did these teachers think about him? You know what I'm saying? Openly saying, I'm not saying I'm going to whip every kid. He openly said, I'm going to whip every black kid. Well, he didn't say kid, every black boy. He was focusing on the boys, right? In this school. Hey, it might have been. So, look, I'll tell you what I did, right? I saw my old man. I saw the car coming, circling the driveway, right? So I know I wasn't going to be spending a lot of time in his presence, right? So, boy, I wish I could. His name almost popped up, man. I can't remember his name, though. But I told him, I said, I don't think you're going to be whipping me. So a few seconds later, so by the time he got to me, my dad had drove up, right? So I opened the door, got in the car, and he was friends with my dad. He had a relationship with my dad, right? So he pokes his head into the window. He says, Johnson, you better watch your kid. He got a smart mouth. And look, I'm not telling any lies, man. I'm honest. I'm telling you the truth, right? That wasn't me. I didn't spout off like that, right? I was very respectful, right? So it really caught my dad off guard because he never would have thought I would have did anything out of line, right? So he looked back, he said, what are you talking about, Kevin? And I said, oh, he said he gonna whip every kid. I just said kid. I remember saying kid. I don't think I specified black kid. He mentioned he was gonna whip every kid before the end of the year. And my dad gave that dude the look, and he said, look, you touch my kid, you got to you know what you got to deal with, right? You know what I'm saying? He let him know right then and there. That ain't about
his ass. I'm gonna whoop your ass.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, man, that was crazy. And that was one of my early, I guess, introductions to coonism. Cause that's what that dude was, man. In my mind.
I mean,
that's what he was.
That's what it was. Hold on one second. This is Built for This Network. This is the End of the Bench podcast. Rapping with HRap. Thank y'all for tuning in every Friday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Today we talk about Kevin and his life and times in New Iberia, Louisiana. Please continue, Kev.
Okay. So it was the relationship with the kids, right? We grew pretty well together, right? Like I said, there were different, I guess, avenues to get into that freshman high, right?
Okay.
So we were a pretty mixed group. The avenue that I was on,
Mm-hmm.
all the schools that I was leading into that, we were all mixed, right? So I dealt with white kids, and and they dealt with us from first grade all the way up until that freshman high, right? On the other side, the other avenue was majority black. Very few white kids, right? So that their relationships with white kids and white kids dynamics with I would say aggressive or non-nonsense black kids was definitely was definitely there, right? So middle school, junior high, no problems, right? We didn't really have that huge racial tension, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
When we got to freshman high, it was different.
One question. What is the community makeup like? Because we've talked about Chicago 1,001 times, and I told you how segregated it is.
Right.
What's the community dynamic? So is it whites over here, blacks over here as a community, or were you integrated as a community but then separated as school?
Right. Well, you had, of course, you had, economics always plays a part, right? So you had a small section of white folks that isolated themselves, but they were very small.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The large part, the meat of New Iberia was mixed.
Okay.
Because it was a working class community. So you had to deal with each other because you couldn't afford to be off into some suburb or some, you had no suburb in New Iberia.
Yeah.
Right. So you had to mix with each other.
Okay.
So there were a lot of, interactions with blacks and whites. But you also had a small group of just, like the projects, just black kids, right?
Okay.
And when you got to freshman high, that small group of white kids and that small group of black kids that had no interaction, they hit heads. And when they hit heads, they hit heads. And what happened was us who were in the middle, we got along. I got along with Bobby and Richard and, I got along with those guys, right? But now their rich white friends, right, or counterparts or whoever you want to call them, right, they're taking a stance. I ain't going to be mingling with these black niggas. You know what I'm saying? Same thing on our end, right? The boys in the hood was like, man, look, I ain't taking crap off of Whitey. You know what I'm
I
saying?
ain't messing with these CACs.
Right. Yeah, he looked at me the wrong way. You know, I'm knocking him the hell out. You know what I'm saying? So, and Kev, who you gonna be with? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
So you were actually faced with that.
I was faced with that, you know. But the thing about it was, I never was pressured to do anything. I you know, even though I was shy, and I really was up until this point. At this point, I was still shy. I was very reserved, but I had a strong conviction about my beliefs, and I wasn't going to let anyone steer me into doing something I didn't believe in. Right. So, if you right, I'm with you. If you're not, you're on your own, homie. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's the way I dealt with it. But it's just, you know, hey, look, like I said, man, your character is always going to be revealed. At some point in time, your true character is going to be revealed. And white folks just cannot resist revealing themselves.
Hey, you know what? This might be a stupid question.
Go ahead.
You know, before you go on, because I've been meaning to ask you this. Klan, man.
Mm-hmm.
What the Klan? Did you experience that?
No, I can't say I did. I'm
Okay.
sure it was. I'm sure, you know, underneath, you know, they did. They had them. You know, I'm sure it was there, right?
Okay.
But I never saw any evidence, right? I never saw a robe, a hood. Never saw a burning cross. Never even heard of it. Right?
Okay. Okay.
I didn't see it until I saw TV. You know,
Wow!
You know what I'm saying? No, I never experienced it. Never did. Because you know, you got to remember something too, man. Where, like I said, where we were, it was more economics. Because you had to interact with each other. Now, where I grew up, with my parents, they built their home. It was an all-black neighborhood, right?
Okay.
But I went to school with a lot of white folks.
Okay.
So,
okay.
You know what I'm saying? So I had to deal with it, you know, and I had no problem with it because I kind of grew up with it. In first grade, it was introduced, and I just learned to deal with it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah.
So,
you were too young to reject it unless
right.
you were guided in that direction.
Right.
Yeah. You know, again, man, I'm going from the perspective of being an ignorant northerner, and I can't speak for every northerner, but I would argue that a lot of us assume Southern at some point you're gonna come in contact with the Klan. So I'm glad you defunct that. Okay, freshman year, the brothers versus the others.
Right. So look, man, the tension, man, was so thick, right? So I would say the first week, when I tell you, you had one side of the hall and the other side of the hall.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to cross that line. You crossed that line, and it was a fight. The first week, we must have had 30 fights, man. We must have had 30 fights. You hear me? It was crazy, man. And the thing about it, I'm gonna tell you, man, we had a brother. There was this white dude, and he really, to be honest with you, man, if it was any white dude, I wanted his ass handed to him. It was him, right? Because he came. I went to school with him in middle school, and he always had this attitude, but he wouldn't cross the line because he didn't have enough backup. You know what I'm saying? Now he get to freshman high, right? And a lot of his counterparts who didn't really see the dynamic at junior high, when they got to freshman high and that dynamic started to evolve, well, now you started seeing all of them gravitate with each other. So now he has backup, right? So we had about that first week, man, we had a whole bunch of fights, right? The last fight that I could remember that was really, you know, dramatic, right?
Okay.
This dude, he wound up picking the wrong brother. He picked on the wrong brother, right? And I don't know exactly how it started because I got into it when they actually started fighting. But when I tell you, this black dude, kicked this dude's butt so bad, right? His face was so bloody, right? You couldn't even tell he was white. I mean, he obviously must have broke his nose, right? Blood was everywhere. It was the most dramatic thing I ever seen in my life, right? And trust me, bruh, after that fight, all the brothers had to do was just look at you wrong. And the white boy was like, hey, man, we all good. We good.
We good.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, no problem, man. We good. Yeah. But it was just strange, man. Really, that's when I really got a true introduction to what that black and white scene was. When I got to freshman high, right? And it got better. By the time I got to senior high, right? So I know that sounds so foreign to everybody because
no, because we see it on TV,
right?
Television shows like freshman high. That's unique. But
right.
I remember being a big fan of Different Strokes, and Arnold and Dudley went to junior high.
Oh, okay.
So when you say senior high, and then the Brady Bunch, they talked about junior high. Well, I'm familiar. I mean, I hope the listeners are as well.
In our school system, junior high was what was it? 7 and 8. 7th and 8th graders went to junior high. So we had a junior high also, but then we had a freshman. That sounds so strange. So then by the time we get to junior high, to senior high, right? It had all evolved. Everything was good. You know what I'm saying? Everything was good because all those issues had been worked out. Everybody knew their place. Everybody respected each other for the most part. It was more, I have a problem with you, not that I have a problem with your skin color.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So, it became all good, for the most part. You still had, like, I can remember. Of course,
you're going to get some clowns. You're going to get some bozos.
Oh, yeah, you'll get some bozos. I could still remember, she was a friend of mine. Hey, man, I remember her name. You know what?
From 40 years ago, huh? Okay.
Was it Vanessa Small or Valerie Small?
Or Biggie Small?
Yeah. I think it's Vanessa. Boy, if she ever watched this, boy, she gonna be pissed. But anyway, we grew up in the same neighborhood, right? And her parents and my parents, they were real close. They were educators too. So naturally they were real close, right? She became the first black, what do you call it? Homecoming queen.
Okay.
She was the very first black homecoming queen, and it wasn't until our senior year. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Wasn't until our senior year, and I tell you something else, man. And this may have been a lot of places, but we had separate proms.
It's a school in Mississippi that still has. I saw an expo recently. It's a school in Mississippi right next door. Still have separate proms, and as a matter of fact, the horrible part, Kev, is these sisters. It was a sister and a brother. They were taking AP classes, and they had a 5.0 GPA because when you take traditional classes, best you can get is 4.
Right.
The white girl had a 4.0 GPA. The black girl, it was 2 black girls or 1 black and 1 black young man and young lady. They gave her the white girl valedictorian, or they made them share it with her because they talking about we've been following her since she was in 8th grade. Who the hell cares? She wasn't taking AP classes.
Right.
Reread. But go ahead, bro.
Yeah. So it was just that was something we were proud of, man. First black homecoming queen, that was something. But you think about it now, and you're like, man, that's outrageous. You know what I'm saying? That was really outrageous. So I guess because that's 12 years. So integration had happened, and it took 12 years. And it was our class that actually had, I guess, really, really took down all the barriers, right? Because we actually had someone that represented our class. You know what I'm saying? And she was black, and she was black, So that was pretty special.
So, you got, will you say, okay, you got, like you said, 12 years later, people are starting to finally come around. What about socially? Are the communities starting to integrate? I'm scared to say it. Are brothers dating white girls now? I mean, help me. So what's this, 1984?
I graduated 83.
83, okay.
Yeah.
So what's the dynamic socially looking like? Are we interacting, or is it still, look, once we get out of the school, you go back over to the white side, I'm going to the black side, talk to me.
Yeah. So interracial dating was not out. You couldn't do it outgoingly, right? You had to do it behind closed doors, right? It wasn't something accepted. You couldn't go. Well, we didn't have Walmart back then. We had our Walgreens, whatever we had back then, right? Yeah. These memories are great. Hey man, I can remember events, man. I might not get your name, but I can remember.
Yeah, whatever. I bet not hear nothing from you no more Thursday. But finish.
So you couldn't go to the local store, right, arm in arm with this white girl.
Oh, okay.
Or white boy. You know what I'm saying? And to be honest with you, I don't really remember any white boys dating any black girls. I don't ever remember anybody doing that. Now there was some black guys that were dating some white girls. Okay. Now, tell you how bad it was. Okay. A good friend of mine, we played ball together, and when we were seniors, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, we were juniors. And actually, see, one of my things was I always hung with, when I got to, like, I would say a junior, right? I hung out with a lot of seniors. So a lot of my friends was a year older than me, So he was actually a senior. So for Christmas, now he was dating this white girl, right? She's on the cheerleading squad, everything, and her father just forbid her, to date this guy. It got out that they were dating, and she got cut off on allowances. She couldn't go nowhere. Only time they was actually out was when, she had to sneak around and say, I was going over to a friend's house, and then they would sneak off. You know what I'm saying? Mm. So it was, and they really, I have to say, man, I don't know why he originally got with her, but once they got together, they really was in love with each other, right? So Christmas, right? We were hanging out, and he was telling me, he said, he was, because I had a little job, right? And I was always independent, I always had a little change in my pocket, right? And he was telling me, he said, man, I'm trying to get some money together, man, because I gotta take this trip. I said, take this trip? Where you going? He said, I'm going to California, man. I said, oh yeah. And I remember, now he ran track, right? Okay. And I remember he had a family member that was in school. When I was in freshman high, he was a star on the track team. Okay. And I remember him moving to California. I remember that story, right? So when he said California, that's okay. Oh yeah. I remember you got a cousin that lives in California. He said, yeah, I got a lot of family in California. Okay. I said, okay. I said, so when you're heading out there? He said, I'm gonna go out there for Christmas. I said, okay, all right. I said, so what kind of money you need, man? He said, oh, I ain't asking you for no money, man. I'm just saying, man, I need whatever kind of hustle I can get, man. I need to get some money together, right? So about 3 days later, one of my close friends, actually my closest friend, was real close with him. They were more, because one of my friends, his name was Wendell, right? He was on the track team. Yeah, man, I remember the name. He was on the track team. So actually, I remember the guy's name. The guy was Nehemiah. Anyway, So he was real friends. He was good friends with Nehemiah.
Ronaldo Nehemiah? No.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. So he told me, he said, man, Nehemiah went to California. And I'm like, oh, that wasn't a surprise to me. He told me he was going to oh, so he told you what was going on? I said, yeah, man, he going to hang out with his cousin. No, man. I can't remember the girl name now. I ain't going, can't remember her name.
Becky.
Yeah, Becky, yeah.
Karen.
He said he and Becky ran off to California. I said, what? I couldn't believe it, man. He said, yeah, man, they hopped on a bus and they headed out to California. I said, wow, man, that's crazy. That's crazy.
So they dropped out of high school to do that?
They dropped out of high school, and this is his senior year. Senior year, and he went out to California with that girl, man. And they wound up, I kept in touch with them a little bit. They wound up graduating. He wound up going to school, and they wound up getting married, right? I don't know if they're still married because I had heard over time, right? They had little issues or whatever, but yeah, man.
He went out there. There was a bunch of white girls. He went crazy.
Becky with the good hands there and there and there.
Everywhere. You heard that Beach Boys and went crazy.
Right. But yeah, that was just how the extremes they had to go to just have a relationship. They actually had to leave town. You know what I'm saying? They ran away, just to have a relationship. So yeah, that dynamic, that mix didn't occur till much, much later. In fact, let's see, I moved from New Iberia, I would say.
Hold it. You mentioned playing ball. Talk to me.
What's that?
You mentioned shooting ball.
Oh, I'd rather not talk about that.
Okay. Next.
I won't put nobody's business out in the street.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Oops. Okay.
But I played a lot of ball in the streets, though. I didn't have the opportunity to play in high school for some unfortunate reasons, but I was a big hoopster on the playgrounds, right? So, all right, Kirby. Anyway, so yeah, I just that's where if I have to say where RaiderKev evolved was on that basketball court, because when I was young, like I said earlier, man, I was very shy. I didn't talk a lot. I didn't, now I had strong convictions. You wasn't gonna punk me, right? In fact, going back to when we was in high school, right? We had a situation. I don't know what it was, man. Every now and then people start.
You mean 40 years ago?
Huh?
You mean 40 years ago? Oh, okay. Go ahead, finish. Let me clear this up. For those who don't know, Kev always telling me how great my memory is and how he could never remember none of this stuff, but he remembering it. But proceed.
So anyway, Negro, put me on blast. We had a situation where something had happened. This white kid had got, I think it was, being a captain on a football team, because in our town, football was king, right? Football was king because, look, think about the dynamics, right? You had, in essence, a city that could really support 2 high schools, right? But we had everyone going to one high school, right? So over the years, once these coaches started understanding what these black kids brought to the team, right? We had some great football teams, right? We had quite a few guys go pro, okay? So football was king. It was king, right? And being the captain of the football team was significant.
Oh, yeah.
It was significant, right? So this, macho white dude thought he should have been a captain, and he got beat out by his brother, right? So, these white boys started feeling like, we're going to take it out on somebody else, on some other people, right? So there was a couple of fights that occurred, and it was just these white kids just picking, right? So our little clique, we let it be known, right? Don't come over here with that mess. You come over here with that mess, we knocking some heads. You know what I'm saying? So I remember now by this time I was a junior, I think, when this occurred. And I was a little more outgoing. I started coming out of my shell, but it really wasn't. It was just around my friends. You know what I'm saying? It was just really around my friends. But like I said, I had a strong conviction about what I believed in, who I believed in. You know what I'm saying? And you don't mess with me because I'm not scared of you. I might be quiet, but I'm not scared of you, right? So we let it be known, man. Don't come over here with that foolishness, right? So this white kid, man, he came and I had some, man, Nike was just starting to come out, right? And I had just bought me some fly white Nikes, man. They were nice, bro. They were nice, right? This dude purposely, he did it on purpose, right? Stepped on my shoes, okay? Man, I grabbed that dude in the headlock and I dragged him outside because I didn't want, look, you couldn't fight. You fight in the hall and you get caught, automatically expulsion, right? I grabbed this dude in the headlock. There wasn't a lot of people in the hall. I dragged him outside and I proceeded to let him know you don't step on my shoes. Every fist at a time. So, a lot of people was like, they started understanding, man, that, you can't just mess with people because we're going to fight back. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that was probably the first time people really saw me as being really aggressive, right? Okay. Other than the basketball court. Because when I was on the basketball court, RaiderKev was there. That's where I was born. That's truly where I was born. I couldn't stop talking, man. I was that person you probably wanted to punch in the mouth. If you was on the opposite team and you was, you wanted to, stop me, you pretty much figure, man, I got to punch this dude out because I'm tired of his talking. You know what I'm saying? In other words, you better be winning. Because if you're winning, I might not be as loud, right? But if I'm winning, you're going to know I just whipped your butt. And I'm whipping your butt, So, yeah. So that's where I think RaiderKev was born, man, on that courtyard, man. Mm-hmm. And that's I don't know, man. I felt so comfortable out there, man. That was the thing.
I mean, it was your get down, man. Like around my friends, I'm always loud and bombastic, but in front of the crowd, I was kind of like you. And when I was in uncharted territory, I didn't do a whole lot of talking, and it was just like, hey, around the guys, I was it was unleashed. But yeah, and the funny thing, I was just the opposite of you. I never talked on the court, and I never talked on the football field because on the football field, you can talk.
Right.
Your game, my game was louder than.
Right. Right. I got you.
Yeah. I locked up a couple of dudes' bowels. Let's put it that way. So yeah, I never got into trash talking. Though I thought it was cool. I ain't never looking like, man, won't you be quiet? I was never that dude. Act like you've been there. Yeah. That was dope. Now, once you mentioned to me about going, being a walk-on, talk to me about that. You graduated from high school,
right?
What's on your mind, heads and tails? What was your heads, and what was your tails?
What you mean?
What were you thinking? Like, man, I graduated from high school.
Yeah.
Like me, my dad was in the Navy. I considered going to the Navy. I actually signed up for the Navy, and then that's another story. But I changed my mind and I went another direction. But
right. Yeah. So You know, it was when you were young back then in the early 80s in that area, the all field, there was a lot of money in the all field, right? So there was a big decision going to school and just going work in the all field, because you get on with one of these all companies, right? They're education. You know what I'm saying? They put you through school, put you through courses that'll help you in the all industry.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't like you was just going to be a dumb laborer, right? There were a lot of executives that didn't step a foot in any college, got, you know, went that route, went to work offshore in the oil field, and took classes, gained, you know, different levels, and I mean, making some great money, you know. So you had to make a decision, man. Going to that whole dynamic of going to school was the only route to being successful. That really wasn't at play. There was another route back then. Okay. You know, now it's a little different, but back then that was really a choice. Do I go to school or do I go to work? Right? Because I didn't have the opportunity to play high school ball, right? I always knew that I was capable. I had the ability, right? I wanted to play organized sports. I played in freshman high, right? But I never did in high school, and that was something that I really wanted to experience, right? And I had the opportunity to go to work. I wound up going to work on the, you know, offshore in the oil field, but I really wanted to taste that that organized sports. I wanted to taste it, you know, at a high level, right? So now it's called UL. Used to be called USL, University of Southwestern Louisiana, University of Southwestern Louisiana. And so I proceeded to walk on, man. I tried out, walked on, and that was a tough experience, man. That was a tough experience. We had when you're a walk on, man, you get zero support, right? Everything was on you, right? When it comes to now, the trainer would tell you what you could do to help your injury, right? But he wasn't spending time with you. You know what I'm saying? I had a injury. I had a knee that I had a problem with, and it used to swell up, man. Swell up like you know, and it was fluid that was building up, right? Normally, you would have it scoped, and if you had, you know, you was in the program, they would probably do an operation, you know, to try to repair it, you know. It wasn't nothing major, but it was definitely something that needed a repair. Probably I would, you know, after the procedure, you know, maybe 2-3 months, 4 months, something like that to recover, right? Or during the season, you would just drain it. The trainer would go in, he would drain the fluid off, right? Of course, there'd be some pain, give you some painkillers, and you'd be on your way, right? Right. 3 weeks later, he'd drain it again, right? Just to get you through the season, right? Well, like I said, you had to do everything for yourself. So the trainer gave me this big ass needle, showed me where to stick it, and said, "I have a good time."
You know what he really told you?
What's that?
Sit your ass down. Sit your ass down.
That's exactly what he told me. That's exactly what he told me. But the first time I did that, man, I had to really think about how bad I wanted this, because that crap hurt. You hear me? That hurt. Wow. That was some pain, bro. And then, you know, you didn't have access to anything, right? So you didn't get any medications, nothing. So I had to go to after draining, in pain, right? I had to go to the campus, to the store, and get some painkillers. So I had, I was living off Tylenol, man. I was living off of it, man. But it was very rewarding because I got to experience it. I got to live that part of that dream that I had. And as much as I as much as I had to second guess it, when I was living it, right? After it was all said and done, I appreciated it. I really did, because I got a chance to fulfill that part, that dream. Was able to check that off my list. You know what I'm saying?
That's dope. Can anybody tell you that you shouldn't do it?
You better shut your white mouth. I'm not kidding you.
There you go. There you go. There you go. Yeah. So after that, man, I only spent that 1 year in college. After that, I wound up taking another route and going to work in the oil field. And I tell you, man, there was a lot of things I was telling you earlier about how the dynamic in the community, you pretty much got along. You had isolated incidences, things of that nature, right? When I went offshore, right, and you have to understand what this is, right? So you are going in the Gulf of Mexico, right? Mm-hmm. You're about, by helicopter, you're about an hour and a half away from land, right? You're isolated, right? You're living on a what they call a platform, and every crew, you had about
Hold on. Slow down.
Go ahead.
You mean to tell me?
Go ahead.
They put you in a helicopter and flew you over the Gulf of Mexico for an hour?
An hour and a half.
Boy, I'd have jumped my ass out.
Hey, look, make it even worse, right? Every day. So you had the main platform, but then you had satellites all over what they call a lease. And on that lease, you probably, we had, I would say, about 40 wells, right? And in those wells, we probably had 13 or 14 satellites, okay? On the bigger satellites, they had a pad, a helicopter pad. So you take the helicopter from satellite to satellite.
How long were you in the air on those?
You're on the air for maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that.
I ain't never even been on a helicopter because I don't want to see me die if we go down.
Man, I was so comfortable with that, man. It was no problem. I tell you, the one time I wasn't comfortable, we had a hurricane coming, right? And and the helicopters we flew on were more, I would say maybe 6-man helicopters, right? So at this point, when this hurricane was coming, they kind of waited because it kind of shifted at the last moment. So they really wasn't going to evacuate us at first. When it shifted, it became a last minute thing, right? Okay. So now they brought these big helicopters. They actually call them ships, right? These airships, right? And they held like 20 or 30 people, okay? These were the sophisticated ones with the night vision and all that. So the one time I was scared, right? We were going through some bad weather, right? It really wasn't the it really wasn't the hurricane, but it was the right, it was like the outskirts of the hurricane that we was actually experiencing, right? And they couldn't see. The rain was coming down so hard, they couldn't see. So I heard them go, "We're going to night vision." And I said, "Night vision? What the hell?" That was the one time I was scared, man. That was the one time I was scared.
Like that. Bruh, I'd have been fired day one. They'd be like, "Well, we're going to go out here, Mr. Williams, and we're going to take off here. You see that thing all the way out there? Yeah, it's an hour away. We'll be there. I'm going to get you there in 50 minutes. No, you not. You ain't going to get me there in no time.
Right. But anyway, so I was telling you about the dynamic in the town, right? but now you're isolated, right? So it was a different dynamic, right? So we were in the mid 80s or late 80s, really, because this was like, no, it was the mid 80s. It was about 85, 86, somewhere in that area, right? So the mid 80s, right? So in town, we cool. You get out there, it was like we was in the 60s.
Gotta be shit. Gonna push your ass over the side, man.
It was like we was in the 60s, bro. I tell you. I promise you.
Tell me
I never
more.
got called a nigga. Right?
Huh?
I never got called a nigga. The only reason why I think I wasn't was because at this point, I was actually married when I started working offshore, right? And my wife, her dad was a supervisor. So the way this worked was now I wasn't working with Shell directly. I was contract work. Okay. So Shell, they worked 7 days on out there, right? 7 days at home, right? As a contractor, I was able to work as many weeks as I wanted. Okay. So I worked with both groups, right? Because he was the supervisor on the one week, he kind of put the word out, don't F with me, right? Because you're going to have to deal with me, right? So he had my back. I'm not sure, because, you want to feel like, I always want to feel the best out of people. I want to think the best of them, right? I got along with everybody, but sometimes they always reveal themselves, right? There was some situations when you would hear them say stuff like, yeah, back in the day, and I would say, back in the day, what would happen back in the day? Sit down, Johnson. We're just playing with you, man. Don't worry about it. But I know I could imagine what happened back in the day. You know what I'm saying? Because look, you had a whole week before anybody would actually, you would be really reporting to. You're out there with the supervisors, his workers, which was mostly all white. So you had to deal with that. Whatever came your way, you had to deal with it until you went home. Once you got back on land, then you can say, blah, 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 this happened or whatever, right? Where it would go, I don't know, right? But when you was out there, you had to deal with them. You know what I'm saying? Now, fortunately, when I came in there, I didn't have to deal with nothing too bad, right? But you could just see, man, 10 years ago, there was probably some issues out here. You know what I'm saying?
Were those Southern issues or just traditional white nationalism at its finest?
Yeah, it was just white nationalism, just being superior. You're gonna be in your place. You might have some support on land, but this is our turf. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, if it wasn't for my father-in-law being a supervisor on the opposite shift, there's no telling my experiences back then. But I'm not saying that it would have been horrible, because I'm the kind of person, man. I'm gonna stand on my own too, right? Now, I don't know how far it would have went, but I can see some situations could have occurred, but I don't know how far they would have taken it. You know what I'm saying? In other words, as bad as I can imagine things were, I don't ever remember a story about somebody dying out there. You know what I'm saying? Or lynching or something like that. You know what I'm saying? How bad people were treated, I can imagine that. I can imagine that, but yeah, man, it was a different dynamic though. It really was.
Okay. We in the mid to late 80s. You on this rig. Mm-hmm. How are you seeing you told me you were married. How are you seeing your family? What's the family dynamic? Keep talking. I gotta connect them to the internet. I'm listening.
Yeah, man, I had dreams of, I wanted to make it a career, right? this was the time period where you can make some real good money out there. I was just thinking about my family, trying to provide for them, and that was the road. I saw that as being the road, and you might, and guys, a lot of guys, you were probably young at this time period, right, in the mid 80s, right? But if you can remember how gas prices skyrocketed, right? And so I'm not sure exactly how that dynamic worked, but the fuel prices went up at the gas pump, but in the industry, the price of oil was dropping.
Oh, price gouging.
Right. What it was, Shell couldn't sell they couldn't get the price that they wanted because the Arabs was flooding the market with cheap oil. So Shell was getting less profits, right? So what they started doing was they stopped hiring and they actually started laying off all their contract work. So I got caught up in that mix because of, my hard work. I was a hustler, man. Basically my job was like labor. I was a helper for everyone. I was a helper for the mechanic. I was a helper for the builders, for the welders. I was a helper for, what they call lease operators. That's the ones that actually work the wells and make sure they flowed. Okay. So I was a helper for everybody, right? But what my mind was, I don't want to just help. I want to learn. So every department I went to that day or that week, I'm trying to learn. And in fact, a lot of times they thought they were getting over. Yeah, Kev, he'll do the work. But what I was doing was I was learning the job. You see what I'm saying? Because the job had to still get done, right? So I was, like if I was a mechanic working on this huge compressor, I don't know anything about this, right? But he wanted me to do the work. And he wanted to sit on his butt, right? Well, I had to learn how to do it. So I say, hey, man, how you do this? How you do that? What's the specs on this? So I'm learning, right? So, and because see, I wanted to make a career out of this.
Irreplaceable.
So when the layoff started, when everything started, I became a commodity. I became essential because instead of having 5 extra people to help the different departments, they only needed 1. All they needed was Kev, because Kev could jump from any section and help out. You see what I'm saying? So I was one of the last contract workers to actually get laid off, right? So I survived a long time. And then when they let me go, man, it was it. All field was done, man. It had dried up, and that dream was over. So I had to figure something out, man. I had kids at this point. So going to school wasn't a true option. I had to earn, and thus RaiderKev the truck driver was born.
Talk to me. Tenfold, good buddy.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
So I'll tell you something about that dynamic, right? So now we're talking about around 87, okay? Started driving trucks. And I jumped out of the fire out of the frying pan into the fire. Because not only, okay, at least back at home, I knew the dynamic. I knew what white folks were about. I knew how they acted. I knew what they would, I knew how to deal with them in essence, right? But now I'm working all over the country with different white folks. You know what I'm saying? And being a truck driver, go ahead.
Before you go, how did you get turned on to truck driving?
It was, I can't really remember, man, exactly. It was, I know it was a pamphlet. I tell you what your boy was doing. I can remember exactly how it happened now. See, memory. Hey.
36 years ago. Man, you
boy
got
was giving
your
blood.
memory, man.
Your boy was giving blood, right? trying to make a dime, right? And I guess, recruiters, they're looking for people who desperate, trying to find something to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this lady approached me with, hey, you ever thought about being a truck driver? I said, I never really thought about it. And she gave me the pamphlet, and I took it home, read over it, and thought about the money, and what would be required. Because listen, in that one of the bad things about a community that was so dependent on a certain industry, when that industry dries up, the community dries up.
Okay.
So all the support for that industry dries up. So people not hiring, they're not selling cars. So I tried to sell cars, couldn't do that because nobody was buying cars. You know what I'm saying? Grocery stores wasn't hiring. Nobody's hiring because nobody's spending money. You see what I'm saying?
Crack was selling.
We gonna get to that. There's a good story about that. Okay. But even that wasn't in our town at that point. In the mid-'80s, crack wasn't around. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't even go that route.
I'm glad.
Selling weed, you couldn't feed your family selling weed.
Because you'll be doing this from the New Iberia jail.
Right.
Live from
anyway, so I just I got into it, man, and once I got into it, like everything, man, I went into it, head first, and I just made a career out of it, man. Really, really dove into it, made a career out of it. But that dynamic, that black and white dynamic on the road was something else, man. I really, these white boys, bro, whenever they have a sense of needing a boost of their ego, they always try to do it off of our necks, off of our backs. You know what I'm saying? So, what was fortunate though was that you wasn't isolated. So, if there was a problem, you was able to speak up, stand up for yourself, but you always had issues. My first few years in the industry, man, it was a lot of problems. And, like right now, man, I'm really not a big CB guy, right? Talking to radio and the CBs, right? I know that's a famous thing for, truck drivers to do, man, some of the crap you used to hear, and you still kind of hear it every now and then. When I tell you I got called every nigga in the world, oh, man, it was crazy, man. You would ask for information. Mind your business, nigga. Nigga, they got a cop down there. So they give you information, but they got to give it to you with a nigga attached to it. You know what I'm saying?
Indeed.
That was crazy, man. That was crazy.
You ever meet up with any of these guys?
Huh?
You ever meet up with any of these guys?
No, right. See, and I think, last night on the show, we were talking about social media, right? And how I don't let things get into my head. Because it's kind of the same thing. Because you're traveling down the road and you're talking off of this wideband radio, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't see anybody. You just hear their voices. So it's just like on the computer in a chat room or something. All you do is you don't even get the pleasure of seeing an avatar or a picture of them. You know what I'm saying? You just hear their voice. That's all you hear is a voice. So I started learning. At first, it used to get to me, right? But then I started realizing there's nothing I can do about it. So why let them get to you? It can only hurt you if you allow it to hurt you. That's where that formed. So that's why today I could take social media for what it is. And I think that's where it was born. Because on that CB, man, you had to deal with a lot. Being a black man, you had to deal with a lot. And if you let it get to you, man, you go crazy. You'll go crazy.
What's the most disheartening thing about trucking? Give me the best and the worst.
Okay, I have to separate this in timeline, okay? Because there's a huge difference in the timelines, right? So when I would say my first 10 to 15 years as a truck driver, the rule of thumb was the harder you work, the more you made.
Okay.
So your efforts were rewarded. Okay. So even though you had to work hard for your money, right? Because the bad side of trucking throughout the time, this never changed. The driver got the lowest piece of the pie. We always got the crumbs, right? Even as you climbed the ladder, became an owner-operator, right? You still wasn't getting the big enough of the pie. You know, it's not until you have like your own authority where you can actually go to a shipper and say, I'm the carrier and I'm going to take your product from A to B. I'm going to insure it. I'm going to take all the responsibilities. It's all on me. You just put the product on my truck and I'm going to take it where it needs to go. That's when you give a bigger piece of the pie. But when you have a broker, then you have your carrier, then now you've had 4 people touch that money before it gets down to you.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? But early on in my career, if you worked hard, you got rewarded. There was an opportunity. Okay. And I enjoyed that. I really did. I took advantage of it. I took advantage of all those opportunities. I was always a hustler, man. I never, I started working. I tried to get a job when I was 14, man. And because of my height, right, the guy, he didn't even think about it. He hired me. And
I wasn't trying to work at 14.
You did? So I did the paperwork, and he didn't even bother looking at the paperwork. He put me to work, right? The next day, he said, Kevin, how old are you? I said, I'm 14. He said, I thought you might have made a mistake. He said, man, I can't hire you. You got to be 15 to go to work. So I was always a hustler, right? So early on in my career, I was able to do that. I would say it started about maybe 15 years ago. The DOT, Department of Transportation, the federal government, started regulating our hours of service through technology. Okay, our hours of service, in case this to kind of catch you to speed, right? We've always had a certain limit of hours that you can work for safety. Okay,
right.
In your car, you can travel from New York to California nonstop, and nobody cares.
Right. I've done it.
When you're a professional driver, you only have a certain amount of time. Then you have to take a break. Okay. Back then, there was an opportunity to lie because it was all on paper.
Embellish. Prevaricate.
Yeah. So you had to do these things on paper, right? So you just, hey, you had the magical eraser, right? And you just figured it out, right? And I was never one that was unsafe. A lot of people, and I know why the federal government did what they did, because a lot of guys used to take drugs to stay up in order to drive, and that was very unsafe, right? But at the same time, there was a lot of people driving cars doing the same thing.
To this day,
you know what I'm saying? So, but you're driving a large vehicle, you can cause much more damage. So I understand the concept, right? But what happened was, through electronics, they are able to monitor your hours of service.
I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
I don't know how much truth it is. I don't know if I read it. I don't know if I heard it. I don't know if I saw a video. According to what my understanding, as an 18-wheeler driver, you are instructed to never swerve around somebody, to plow through them.
Yeah, there's some gray area there, because what it is that, so let's say, you see, something in the road and you swerve, right? You swerve, you cause damage to the freight, you wreck the vehicle, it's on you. It doesn't matter that there was a kid that you was trying to avoid hitting, right? You swerved, you lost control, and it's on you. So there's a lot of companies that'll tell you, don't swerve.
Hit the kid.
If it's in your way, you hit it. I can't do it. I'll lose my career. I'll do whatever I have to do. I'm not hitting no kid. I'm not hitting a family, you know what I'm saying, on purpose, just to avoid whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because look, you hit somebody, it's still not a guarantee.
Yeah, it's up here forever.
Yeah, it's up there forever. Exactly.
So, me and you talk all the time, and like you at the end of your, how long were you in this before you start running out of traction? Because you've been doing it for 30 years now.
Yeah.
How long before you start running out of traction?
I would say about 10 years ago.
Wow. Yeah, the reason I ask is because, it's going to be a lot of people see this, and the very first thing people see when you, I don't know if it's folklore, and I don't even want you to go into it because that's your personal business. People see CDL driver and they go, money. But what kind of advice you would give 18-year-old HRap that's he just graduated and got his license?
The thing I would tell them is, for one thing, understand the industry. Okay, I would advise you to go to work for a company, get some experience to understand the industry. But as you're doing this, try to look behind the curtain and understand why things are being done the way they're done. Okay. Try to form relationships with customers, because what I would advise you to do, gain that experience on the back of a company where all you do is just go to work and you have no financial liability, right? But your goal in a few years, I would say no more than 2 years, you should be looking to start your own company. And when I say your own company, I don't mean the term become an owner-operator.
Okay.
Because an owner-operator is a glorified company driver. That's all he is. Okay. What I mean is starting your own company is form your own LLC, understand how to become, have your own authority. When you have your own authority, I can go to Kroger grocery store and say, I'm a carrier. I have a truck. This is my trailer size. Do you need my services?
Macaroni.
And you getting all of the pie.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Try to learn to eliminate giving anyone else a piece of the pie. Because in trucking, there's a lot of money. But if you're only getting a slice of the pie, there's no money. Learn to eat that whole pie.
Man, that's beautiful to know, because again, all I've ever heard is there's a lot of money in trucking, and I've never heard how you can obtain that money and what do you have to do to obtain it. And I'm quite sure it's a ton of racism. You want to speak to that?
Yeah. So it has gotten a lot better because of competition. Competition is always going to weed out issues, right? But going back when I first started, man, it was very hard for a black man to even become an owner operator like I spoke of, right? Because you have to buy a truck, right?
Mm.
So everyone knows the dynamic of just buying a home as a black person, right?
Yep.
Well, that exists when you're trying to buy a truck, because they know when you buy that truck, you're going to make more money. So, of course, they're going to make it more difficult for you to obtain that truck. So, obtaining a truck is going to be more difficult just because you're black, right? Now, if you just go to a company that's, like I said, owner-operators does not necessarily mean you're going to have a bigger piece of the pie. You might have a larger slice, but you're not going to have the slice that you deserve.
Okay.
The only way you get the slice that you deserve is you have a direct relationship or a closer relationship to the actual shipper.
Okay. So
Trying
you would have to get in
eliminate-
good with Dean. So you would have to get in good with Dean or Oscar Mayer or one of those types.
Correct.
Is that likely?
Today it is.
Oh, okay.
Back then it wasn't.
Okay.
Back then it was extremely difficult for a black man to actually have his own authority and to actually make money.
Mm-mm.
Getting your own authority is not a problem. You can get your authority because it just takes money. It takes a filling out an application and money.
Okay.
Now, what do you do with that? Because it's a huge investment. Now you got to go to Dean and say, I'm a carrier. Do you need my services?
And then you got to hope that they do it.
Hell no, nigga. Go back and work for that company and get a small piece of the pie. I ain't about to give you this big chunk of pie.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So back then it was very difficult. Today, because of Walmart, Amazon, UPS, that competition in expedited freight, expedited services, online services, ain't nobody looking at nobody color. They're looking at your availability. You see what I'm saying?
Speaking of that, how do you determine, like, I don't know if I would want to drive in the snow. Like, I ain't going up to Illinois between Christmas and Easter. Don't even call me. How does that work?
Hey man, it's just you have to listen until you have. Now let me say, let me back up. Again, timeline. The industry has changed. Okay, when I first started, if you want to make money, you had to work over the road. Oh, okay. If you work over the road, you're gonna have to drive in different climates. Bottom line, you're gonna have to learn the snow. You're gonna have to deal with the rain and the wind up north, northeast. Northwest.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Seattle, Idaho, Wyoming.
Right. You're gonna have to deal with the traffic and the mayhem in the northeast. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
You have to resist the pleasures in the southwest.
To kill you.
Right. You know what I'm saying? You have to learn to deal with all the dynamics that exist in all these areas, because that's where the money was.
Okay.
Over the road driving was where you made your money. That was back then. But remember I told you, when the government started understanding through technology, we can restrict these guys' hours of service and monitor it, right? The whole industry changed. So now the industry started realizing we can't ask these guys to go work all over the place, be away from home, and not make the money.
Wow.
Because are we going to actually pay them more? We're going to give them a bigger piece of the pie? Oh, hell no. We ain't doing that. So we had to change the whole dynamic. So regional driving, regional routes started really becoming a thing, right?
When you say regional, what like break down the regions for me, please?
So you would have, when I say regional, I would mean, so let's go back to hours of service, right? Okay. Hours of service would be an 11-hour driving day. If you was able to average, let's say, 60 miles per hour in your day, you're talking about 600 miles. So anywhere in the country, wherever you are, they pretty much would look at 600-mile radius. That would be regional. So wherever you are, so when you're in Chicago, just think of 600 miles out. That would be regional work. You see what I'm saying? Because you...
Do you get a chance to get there and come home?
No, you would have What happened was you would, and this was the new way of thinking in the trucking industry.
Oh, okay.
We're not going to have guys spend weeks on the road. What we're going to do is that we're going to take one trip out, come home.
Oh.
Take another trip out, come home. So we're not paying you more, but we're not asking you to spend weeks away from your family.
So I'm gonna treat you with something that you should have had.
Right. And mostly over the road was for guys who were just starting our teams. And that's what me and Janice did. That's where, we continued running over the road because we were a team. You know what I'm saying? So that's how that dynamic changed in the trucking industry. So you had more regional work. And so when you look at that, so the competition started coming in with your Amazon. What's the biggest thing? Probably growth of Amazon is that I can have your stuff now.
Yeah, I can get you your stuff within 36 hours.
Right. Well, that's because you have drivers that are just geared to getting freight from A to B now. The next driver takes it and he gets it there. So something that's across the country still travels across the country nonstop because you drive it from
you
LA,
playing Monopoly.
Phoenix, right, to Phoenix. Phoenix goes somewhere else and just keeps going until it get to you in Chicago. You see what I'm saying? But it go from driver to driver to driver. So, but with that demand, it took away color. You see what I'm saying? Now
right.
it's
or reduced it.
It reduced it, right. Because now I don't care what you look like. Are you able to get my freight where it needs to be? Bottom line. That's all I need to know. You know what I'm saying? So that's how things has changed.
Would you tell somebody who's never driven a truck, hey man, go ahead and get into that?
Yeah, because today, like I said, we have an opportunity to, if you go about it in the right way. If you go into with the mindset that I want to be an owner of my company and not work for a company, then I'm going to tell you, hey man, come on, let's go. Let me show you how to do this.
Okay.
But if you have the mindset of, well, I just want a good job, have some benefits, I'm gonna tell you, man, look, you can go ahead and do that, man, but you're missing on a great opportunity, So that's what I would say.
That's interesting because, again, man, your whole life, truck drivers make a whole lot of money. They make a whole lot of money. And you don't know the pitfalls of this. Now, I got two questions that it's really not really about Kev. It's really about trucking. When you see these guys who then took the top off these trailers at an overpass,
right.
Who's responsible for that?
Them, the driver. The driver. The only excuse you have for hitting an overpass is because on every overpass there's a
14.2 feet out.
Right. So if the DOT paved the road, right, and reduced that height, and they didn't change the sign, perhaps.
You know what? You just answered a big time question for me.
Okay.
The question you just answered for me was this. In Chicago, under the viaducts, the overpass, the ground be horrible.
Right.
And I'm like, man, can't somebody fix this? Right. Well, if they fix it, they'll shrink the trucks.
Right.
Then they may be like,
right.
See, man, you remembered that.
Yep. There it is.
Now you missed that joke. You remembered that, huh? But yeah, man. And yeah, man, it's just okay. I don't know if you want to talk about this. Now I'm gonna ask you. If you don't want to talk about it, you say, "Get out my business, Nick." But how is it being a driver and a dad?
That's I definitely want to talk about that because that's extremely difficult, man. You have to have you have to have a great support system, right?
Okay.
Because I feel like raising a kid or raising a family on the road it's extremely difficult for so many reasons. But
Okay.
especially, and I look at it, I'm not saying that my girls aren't my priority, right? But I look at my boys, right? And if they're not good, I think it's me. I'm the problem. You know what I'm saying? It's definitely me. If my girls are not good, I'm going to take some responsibility. I'm going to say, hey, baby, why you didn't teach her that? You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to my boys, if they're lacking something, I'm going to take the biggest blunt of that. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So when you ask me what I would tell somebody getting into the industry, that would be one of the conversations I would have to have. Okay. What kind of support system, what kind of family structure you have, you know, because there's so many homes, man, I know have been destroyed because of that dynamic, you know. And I don't really want to get into it big time, but it probably was a big factor in my first marriage. Because Janice and I, we're both on our second marriages, right? And it definitely played a part in my first marriage not succeeding. Played a part. I ain't saying it's the only reason. There's a lot of other reasons, but it definitely played a big factor.
Okay, I mean, fair. When you're doing these things, you making good money. Like with you got super duper blessing because your best friend was also your business partner,
right?
And it's your wife, Janice. She's in the chat room. Would you recommend brothers, sisters, or friends teaming up?
Okay. I'm going to say this, and you have to understand what I'm trying to tell you, right? You have to have, that person has to be your best friend.
Okay.
Because there's no other room you can go to.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's y'all two, in essence, living in a closet. So if you can stand the person that you're with 24 hours a day, living in a closet, then I would say, yeah, it'll be great. Y'all gonna have the best time of y'all lives. If you can't, I'm gonna tell you, don't even think about it.
Oh, wow.
Don't even think about it. But I say that because that's what it is, but I'm gonna tell you the results. I see a lot of couples out here, a lot of black couples that are doing their thing, man. I see a lot of it. And that's one of the things that I think that it frustrates me when I hear people say, you know, the failure of the black family or the failure, you know, we don't have a lot of, you know, good, healthy black relationships, right? Because I know if you're in the trucking industry and you're a husband and wife team, that money isn't going to be enough to keep you together. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It has to be that relationship. So when I see these black couples on this road, I know that's a positive relationship right there. It has to be. Because you live in 24 hours a day with a person and you live in the size of a closet.
And, you know, I'm glad you said that, man, because, again, you know, on the show last night and the show that I do Tuesday, and you do your live show, we try to, me, you, Charlotte, and other people, anybody else that we deal with, we try to shed a positive light on our community. And I'm glad you just did that, man, because there are far too many opportunities for people to take pot shots at us. And shout out to you for even saying that, you know, because it meant a lot. It means a lot. It's something simple to you, but you know, 99 times out of 100, somebody's saying something negative, or this ain't gonna work, or that ain't gonna work. And going forward, after you saying that, we just tell them,
Sit your ass down. Sit your ass down.
I love it.
no, but no, that was the good part, man, because like you said, man, you know, yeah, it's gonna be good money, but are you willing to sit in this box with somebody?
Right.
How does a vacation work? How does time off work? How do you arrange these things? Because, like you said, you living in a box.
Right.
You and your wife, your best friend, y'all living in a box for a week, 2 weeks. How do you set that up?
Well, I look, man. I don't know if I'm an outliner. I don't know, man. I don't know how other people do it, right?
Oh no, forget them. How you do it?
Right. Look, man, Dennis is my best friend, dude. So, you know, we do everything together. We very seldom, I didn't say every time, but very seldom we are not together.
No, I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. How do you, as in this trucking industry, how do you set up some me time?
Oh, well, I've been fortunate to because of our financial situation, we she's making just as much money as I'm making. Right? Well, she was, because she's not working now, right? But when we were running teams, we were making excellent money. So we just take time off. We just take it off. That's the beauty of it. See, like I was telling you earlier, you had opportunities to make because as much money as you wanted, because basically you made your schedule, right? That dynamic never changed. So in the trucking industry, for the most part, you got to pay your bills, right? Mm-hmm. But if you can afford to pay your bills, I could take a month off.
Ooh.
You see what I'm saying? There's no problem. As long as I save my money and can cover my bills, nobody cares. You see what I'm saying? Nobody cares.
You've probably been all over the United States of America. Where's your favorite place to go? Is it a place that you say, I can't wait to get back up there?
Yeah. So, and I have to, so you're talking about just to visit,
drive through, whatever, like if they might have some very good people there. They may have a very good restaurant there, or it might just be a good place. Like, I love the part of the country that you live in, the Southwest. I love Texas. I love New Mexico. I love Arizona. I love Nevada. I don't know what it is about seeing that flat land and them plains, that it is literally like when I hit the Southwest, it's like you, in my mind, obviously you don't hear it. In my mind, you can hear, and that's the stress leaving my body.
Right.
I ain't got to be doing nothing. A couple of times, you know what I did a couple of times when I went out west? I mean, when I went to Arizona, me and my man Stacy, salute to the homie Stacy, we flew from Chicago to Arizona to help our homeboy move. And we got there, they would say, man, we put some stuff in the storage. This joker had put his car in the storage with some couch cushions.
Right.
That's all he did. We had to unpack his whole crib.
Right.
Break down his whole crib, pack it, and put it in storage. He talking about the car,
right?
A functioning car,
right?
It ain't like they pushed the car to the storage,
right? Right.
Drove a car to the storage.
Wow.
So, but that's all we did. But I'm telling you, it's just something about them. So, with that being said, like where are your places like that? Like, I love this place, I love that place. Even if I'm only there, I'm only there for a day. That's my joint. Give me something.
Right. So, getting to this place, I don't enjoy. Okay. But when I'm there, the Northwest, Seattle, Portland is great, man. I don't feel the racial tensions, the economy. It doesn't cost you a whole lot to live up there, right? They're not beating you down with a lot of restrictions. You know, you can live your life freely, right? I've noticed, especially in the Portland area, there are a lot of Black success business people out there, right? A lot of Black-owned businesses in the Portland area, right? And and it's just, I'm telling you, man, and the weather isn't horrible.
Right,
you get in the mountains, it's bad, right? Mostly it's the rain you got to deal with, right? But the weather isn't horrible. Man, I tell you, man, it's just it seems almost like you can breathe better up there, man.
That's how I feel in the Southwest.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. Despite that, it's a great. It's great.
Inside joke, people. Inside joke.
I love that area, and we always say, I'll be honest with you. There, at one point, we even talked about living up there. When we retired, we talked about, but then we think about family. Like, nah, we can't move everybody up here. So you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But it's beautiful up there, man. I really love it, and I always felt like, you would be isolated, right? But there are a lot of us up there, and we're successful up there, So
one of my former coworkers, he moved up there. He wasn't in the best emotional space, but he moved up there. Okay, what ain't you? They wouldn't catch you dead in a zoo.
Anywhere east of Pittsburgh, south of I would say North Carolina, that whole area,
the Bible Belt,
all of that area, Pennsylvania, New York, upper Virginia, New England area. Oh, hell no. I don't want to visit that area. You hear what I'm saying?
Don't say Virginia. That's where Golden is.
Oh, really? Well, Richmond is cool. Parts of Virginia is cool, right? Man, I dread that area. The traffic, the weather, the people. They got some of the rudest people. Look, man, let me tell you this story, bro. When I was a company driver, I would say 2 or 3 years into the industry, right? I used to go to New York damn near 2 to 3 times a week, right? And
from Arlington?
Well, no, I was living in Louisiana.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
So I was taking a lot of products from New Orleans up to the New York area, right? And a lot of coffee. You don't realize, man, coffee is big in New Orleans, man. It's a big industry, import of coffee coming through New Orleans. So I would take a lot of coffee. That was one of my major commodities going up to New York, right? Paper products also. But I was going to New York a lot. And at first, I was a little intimidated because these people were rude. They had look, you get there an hour early, they pissed off. You get there an hour late, they pissed off. You get there on time, they pissed off. I'm like, well, how can I please you guys? You know what I'm saying? So I started realizing that's just their way of communicating. So I formed that same type of communication skills.
And they loved you.
Yeah, and they loved me. I would go in there. I remember one time I arrived to a shipper. I was 10 minutes. I arrived to a receiver. I was 10 minutes late, right? And I've been there before. And they're very strict about their unloading times, right? So I show up about 10 minutes late, and he looks at my bills. He says, "You're supposed to be here at 8. It's 8:10." And he says, "What the fuck happened?" I said, "What the fuck is it to you? I'm here." Oh, that's the way you gonna talk to me? I said, "Man, you want your shit or not?" Man, back that shit in dock door, and we were cool. You know what I'm saying? So prior to that, I would have been intimidated. I'd been like, apologize. Oh man, I'm sorry, man. I got caught in traffic. I'm giving excuses. When I threw the attitude right back at him, oh, we were cool.
So he heat checked you.
Right. So, but that's just their way. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not. I don't have that kind of attitude, man. I can't live like that. You know. So I just like to stay away from that area, man. That would be the worst.
Oh wow. Hey man, we've been on here almost 2.5 hours. We didn't went from kindergarten
right.
with your memory that you say you don't have. I don't know how you do that, HRap. I don't never want to hear that no more, homeboy.
Hey, but did I even give? Look, see, here's the difference, bro. You know your kindergarten teacher's name.
I also used to see those people at my grandmother's house. And the people that I be remembering, I still interact with them to this day.
Hey, bro, take the compliment, bro.
No, but that's I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
Those people, a lot of those people are related to me.
Right, I got you.
Through cousins and marriage and things like that.
I got you.
So it's not like, oh man, you remember this? Like, no, I still like the dude that I told you about that I got into a fight with in kindergarten. I still see him all the time.
Right.
He was just in this cat wedding last summer, being silly on pictures and stuff. Like,
right.
He became a urban mogul.
Wow.
So it's not as impressive as y'all think it is. It's just like I'm still around these people, so you remember you see somebody every day for the better part of your life. It's saying you would go, hey, well, and like that's one thing. Like with Chicago, man, I'm listening to all your stories, and you lived in a small town. Chicago has the feel of a small town because the 6 degrees of separation is real. Show you how real it is. This is why, like, the memory that you say I have, you give me credit for, which I think I do have a very nice memory. I think I have a very good memory, but the 6 degrees, I'm showing you how real the 6 degrees of separation is. And this is if, let's just say I didn't know this person as well as I do. Because when he see me, he say, hey, how you doing, Brian? Me, I have a friend, this girl I grew up with. Her name is Justice Stamp. She's a community organizer. She's very good friends with the Secretary of State, Jesse White. Jesse White is a major power player in the state of Illinois. He's the Secretary of State. So guess what that means? I'm really like 3 phone calls away from Barack Obama. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So and dude, you would be surprised. Like, okay, you can go to my Facebook page right now. It's this dude named Corey. I went to high school and played baseball with him.
Mm-hmm.
Corey knows my cousin Kanisha. I knew he knew Dre because they from the same block.
Right.
But he was like, I didn't know you know him. And he knows somebody. I didn't know you know him. I'm like, dude, he didn't realize that I was from over there as well.
Right.
So he going, I didn't know you know them. I'm like, dude, those are my cousins.
Wow.
Well,
yeah,
that's what's wild. But man, that was a hell of a ride, man.
Yeah.
Oil tankers.
Yeah.
Truck driving.
Yeah.
And we didn't even go deep.
Right.
We gotta get you back on here so we can go deep. We're gonna talk about some of your experiences at the university.
Yeah.
We'll talk about some of your experiences with some of these socially challenged white people in the trucking industry. Man, hey kid, man, 2.5 hours.
Yeah, bro.
But you know what? This is just like our phone conversations.
Yeah, exactly.
But man, see, man, the education on the trucking industry is the most, to me, was the most impactful because actually everything was very impactful because, again, remember, we're doing this for young people and for people who have never been to where you're from. And just, being a person from Illinois, again, I can't speak for everybody from Illinois.
Right.
But you from where they make Tabasco sauce.
Right.
And hot sauce. Everybody in the community, coast to coast, border to border, love hot sauce.
Right.
But me. For real, I'm not big on hot sauce, but I do understand the impact of hot sauce. And I got hot sauce in my house right now.
Right.
And what their bottle say? Louisiana hot sauce.
Right.
So you're from that. And dude, it's amazing, man. It's utterly amazing that me and you are 5 years apart. You born 1965, I was born 1970.
Mm-hmm.
And you were at the forefront of school integration.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I've never been in the classroom with a non-black person.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
Even when the brief time I spent at Lincoln Park High School, I was never in the classroom with a non-white person.
Yeah.
When the whole class was black.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it looks like to do that and see a white person.
Right.
Well, to see a Latino person. And you were at the precipice of desegregation.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's power, man. Dude, your grandchildren can look at this and go, now they can ask you questions about that.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to, man. I appreciate this, Kev, because, dude, I know, dude, just, okay. What I want you to do is step outside of Kevin Johnson just for a second. Don't be RaiderKev for a second.
Okay.
Me and you are 51 and 56 years old. And we know somebody who's at the forefront of desegregation.
Right.
That don't even sound like we're old enough to be there.
Right. That's true.
And you were there and you did it.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, my sisters are your age. They, I won't tell their age, but they're your age. My brother your age. Mm-hmm. I got cousins your age. And I'll tell you something, I went to William E. Gladstone Elementary. I went to Ethan Allen, which was the sister school. That's when while they were changing your school from desegregated to segregated to desegregated.
Right.
They were getting rid of the junior high concept here in Chicago.
Okay. Because
you initially went to Ethan Allen first through sixth grade, and then you went to Gladstone for junior high, and then you went to high school. Mm-hmm. 6th through 8th grade, and then you went to high school. Mm-hmm. I didn't get that because when I got to first grade, everybody went to Westtown. Everybody went to Gladstone. Right. Everybody went straight to Gladstone, and I was in the same schools as my sisters, and it was different. Right. So desegregation, dude. You talking to a cat? Like, what's funny? As we talk about your life story, and even though I didn't do the desegregation thing, I appreciated my academic experience more, simply because I've told people I've never been in the classroom with a white person. Man, that's crazy. I feel bad for you. I'm like,
right.
No, I'm glad I didn't.
Right, exactly.
Because I had very few white teachers.
Yeah.
And not that white teachers don't care, because I'm quite sure Mr. Corelli was cool. He was super cool. He was my modern world history teacher in high school. He was super cool. He was one of the coolest teachers in that school.
Right.
He talked to us like we were people. He didn't talk at us. Mr. Buttervick, he was a math teacher. He was a jerk. He was a jerk ass. Can't think of his other math teacher name. He was a super jerk ass. Mm-hmm. Miss Swanko, I guess she was cool, and these are the very few. Miss Cicero, Miss Austin, they were, but when we came in contact with the brothers and the sisters that were teaching at West Dallas Vocational High School or William E. Gladstone Elementary School, those teachers poured into us, man.
Right.
Like,
right.
so,
and
man.
I felt very fortunate, man, when I was in school. Like I said, I can only remember one teacher that definitely gave us issues, right? But when I was in high school, once I got to really junior high, freshman high, and high school, there was only one teacher I had an issue with, and that was really because he had a hang up because he was gay. And he thought we saw him differently. We didn't care.
Right.
But he always had a chip on his shoulder because, he was gay. Well, why are you going to be upset with us because you're gay? You know what I'm saying? But I guess he wanted to be, wanted to catch it before we was actually get to him. He wanted to get to us. You know what I'm saying? He wanted to throw the first punch,
Yeah.
But I can really say I was fortunate to have some teachers. Not all of them was forthcoming with information, but I never felt held back because of my color. You know what I'm saying? And we had some black teachers. And I remember now this one teacher, I could definitely remember her name. I'll never forget her. I love her to death, man. Miss Campbell. We had Black History. Yeah, I remember her teacher name. Yeah. But she was because she was so influential into me understanding my Black history, because she taught. We had actually a Black History elective, a course, right? And we even had a club after school. It was a Black awareness, right? So she had a big influence on my life because she really taught me and taught us. I'm telling you what she did to me, but she did to everyone, right? She taught me how to love me and how to to give me power in me. I have power because I'm Black, not despite I'm Black, but because I'm Black, I'm powerful.
Wow.
And that's what she instilled in us.
Wow.
So I was very grateful for her.
And see, I've had 2 negative teachers in my life. Well, that were Black. I had 3 negative teachers. Let me go. Second grade. Her name was Miss. This lady actually punched this kid in the face.
Wow.
No, that dude. Wow. It's 3 guys, two other guys that I'm still in contact with to this very day. As a matter of fact, my homeboy James, his mom passed on my mom's birthday, 2021, December 13th. We go back to preschool. So that's what I'm saying. When y'all be like, man, you remember these people? I'm like, I talked to them last month.
Right. Gotcha.
But me, James Tribble, and James Barnes went from 1st through 8th grade together every year.
Wow.
We sat right next to each other. And that lady, 2nd grade teacher, Miss Pat, we never saw again after that. She slapped this kid named David Gleason because he had to go to the bathroom.
Wow.
That was in an elementary school. High school, it was Mr. Payton. Mr. Medina was a piece of trash. I mean, he did. And you notice I don't say God rest his soul.
Right. Got you.
And Mr. Bowman. Other than that, I had, and those math teachers I just told you about.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any bad. See, that's what it is. Like when you go to an all Black school with these ladies that want you to succeed, and like Mr. Butler. Mr. Butler used to talk to you like you were standing on the street corner.
Right.
And he talked to the girls like that too. I mean,
right.
I know you around here setting it out.
Right.
If you want a baby, you're setting it out. You're gonna be sitting outside with a baby.
Right.
Like he talked to you like he was your uncle.
Right.
So, so I didn't have that. And in some ways, I wish I would have had your experience. But in other ways, I wouldn't pass up Miss Bradley, Miss Johnson.
Well, I have a different perspective because I think about, and this is nothing recent, but I've always thought about what would it have been like if all of my teachers, or the majority of my teachers, like I said, I'm not going to say I had any teacher to hold me back.
Right.
But just imagine if most of my teachers were a Miss Campbell. What would my life have been like?
And see, that's what I be telling you in Charlotte.
Right.
It ain't that the memory is so good. It's just these people took time with us. Mm-hmm. Like they taught us. They were, imagine all of your teachers being Charlotte, or the majority of your teachers being Charlotte.
Right.
And that's my experience. Even look, me and Miss Adams used to fight like Tom and Jerry. Mm-hmm. But when I watch the news, I hear Miss Adams, or I'm fact checking like Miss Adams taught me to. Miss Adams used to be a stickler for reading numbers. Mm-hmm. It is, you do not, like, let's say you got $100,000 and you want to read all the numbers. You have to say $119,955.49.
Right.
If you just said 159,000, and she would stop you.
Right.
And she said it in either 1982 or 1983. She said that. She said, when you watch the news, they say it wrong all the time. So anytime I watch the news, I wait for them to read the number, and they get it wrong every time. And see, that's why you watching the news. And there was a couple other things Miss Adams said that you'd be like, And it's just certain cultural standards, dude. It was, but I do wonder, like you say, you wonder what it's like to have my academic experience,
right?
And I wonder what it's like. I just wonder. Hey, dog. It culturally, it would be better for me.
Yeah.
But spiritually, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't give up the chance of meeting. Man, Miss Nelson was the dean, den mother of Westinghouse. Mm-hmm. It was this dude named Mr. Anderson. He used to call everybody son. Okay, son, daughter. Call all the girls daughter, all the girls son. Nobody ever called him Mr. Anderson. They called him father.
Right.
That type of stuff. And then you had Mr. Payton. If I saw him tonight, I'd push him in traffic. I ain't lying to you, Jack. I ain't lying to you, Junior.
Wow.
But then you got Mr. Shannon, Ray Shannon. Salute to Ray Shannon. He's still alive. I saw him. Westinghouse has an alumni cookout.
Okay.
Ray Shannon and Mr. Butler were there.
Wow.
That's what I'm talking about. And if Mr. Bogan ever come, I'm beating him up. I'm gonna be the first dude to have a fight at the cookout. Stop that dude right in his face. Dude told me I wasn't gonna amount to nothing.
Wow.
You ain't gonna amount to nothing, because I used to clown around. Dude, I know the answers to what you asked.
Right.
You're not teaching.
Right.
You regurgitate things. First of all, my friends took your class and they gave me the answers to the test. I ain't gotta pay attention to the class. So, and I knew the stuff that you teaching. It's about you teaching, like you said, it was an elective.
Right.
I chose to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't whole school year, I can't remember one thing I learned in that class. And it wasn't because I was telling jokes.
Yeah.
Like you teaching Black history, you teaching white face and Black history. So
yeah.
But anyway, man, I appreciate this, man.
I appreciate you.
As usual, man. These things right here, Lord willing, man. Kirby gonna be on. I told Kirby next week if I can't get your dad, but Kirby gonna be on here next week. Kirby is going to give you Chicago from a 40-year-old dude perspective. It's this neighborhood in Chicago called The Village.
Okay.
And it's, how on The Wire, you remember The Wire?
Oh, yeah.
They had the high rises, and where D'Angelo was at, they had the low rises.
Right.
The low rises in Chicago, in this one section of the city, is called The Village.
Okay.
And like you said, you had to be able to navigate through the village. But you wasn't just no random dude walking through the village.
Right.
If you walked in, you gonna limp out.
Right.
One of the two. But
right.
I really appreciate it. Hey, Kirby next week, your dad soon. See if I get my man Twin, and not that Twin people, not the Barber Twins, another dude named Twin from the Avenue. People. And that's the people part about this. If I don't get them to learn more, learn D grade, learn about New Iberia. Dude, the hot sauce. You know, until you said the hot sauce tonight.
Hold on, you're breaking up on me. What about the hot sauce?
I said, you said the hot sauce tonight. It never occurred to me you're from where Louisiana hot sauce comes from.
Yeah.
It never dawned on me.
Yeah. For years, it used to say New Iberia, Louisiana, you know, but now it says Avery Island, which is so strange. It's a suburb of New Iberia.
Where white folks live. Can't get the brothers too much credit.
That's crazy, man. We was on the map, man. They put us on the map and took it away.
And it took what was the thing? What is it? What we call it? Not the octoroons. What's below the octoroons? The light skinned people.
Oh, mulattoes.
The mulatto thing. Yeah, man. I mean, it just shows you how, like I said, man, it's the conditioning and the colonized mind.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about that Tuesday too, man.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it. Hey, man, you got to come back, man.
Yeah,
you
man.
already got to see. You and D. Gray got to come back, man. Y'all already got a seat on the end of the bench, man. Y'all already bench warmers.
Right.
You got to come back, man, and continue to tell us about everything, man, because I'm going to hit you out the
stories, man, especially how crack hit New Iberia.
Really? Like as I said, we just skated across the surface.
Right.
The next day, man, next Friday you off, or next time you get close to a Friday, you know you're going to be off for Friday. I want you to come back and tell us about that, man.
Yeah, I think I'm working hard on my old man, because he has some stories that I'm probably gonna learn some things. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So I'm definitely trying to work on getting him on.
Okay, well, tell you what, I'm a book Kirby for this Friday because I done bumped them last Friday and this Friday.
Appreciate it, Kirby.
yeah. So he definitely gonna be on, but Kirby. Me and Kirby, he know them a little more intimately than me. But me and Kirby know some people who had some. He's not gonna name no names. He ain't finna put nobody business in the street. But Kirby has seen some things. Wow. Kirby told me about one time he was at somebody's crib, and he's not gonna tell you the person, but he was at somebody's crib and they were just chilling. And they pulled out a box with 15 grand, shoe box with 15 grand.
Wow.
You know, I can tell you stories. Like I'm working on my man. I ain't gonna say his name. This dude, I'm just gonna call him Mr. S. Mr. S. I saw him cooking up some drugs, mixing some drugs, and they fell down the sink. He when they put his and got the curve off, pushed it through, finished cooking it, and the drug addict he was selling the drugs to was like, "Hey man, bring us some more of that." Wow. So he can't tell that story.
Right.
Because we don't know about statute of limitations.
Right. Right.
We can probably tell that story, even though that story happened in like 94, we can probably tell it about 2034. Wow. But not a second before. And I got a couple people I'm working on, man. But Terry, Twin, Kirby gonna give y'all the inroads to the streets of Chicago that if I put like this, if I tell it, the feds know who I used to run with.
Right. Well, I appreciate the show, man. I really do.
I appreciate you, man.
I think it's needed, man, and I love, what you're trying to do with it, man. And it's needed. It's really needed.
Because, hey, man, people didn't know New Iberia. And hold on after the show. People didn't know New Iberia, Louisiana, and now they do.
Yeah.
And with that being said, anybody who didn't like New Iberia,
Sit your ass down. Sit your ass down.
and if you don't like anybody else, anything we talking about,
You better shut your white mouth. I'm not kidding you.
but y'all already know, man. Thank y'all for tuning in, man. I really appreciate it. Please hit the like button. Or if you're on Facebook, hit the like button. Please. Actually, that prayer thing that y'all be sending out, that ain't the prayer thing. That's actually a high five. I found that out today. It is. Look at it. You'll see it's a high five.
Yeah.
Press, please hit the like button on Facebook. Hit the like on YouTube. Hit the like on Instagram. Instagram. Hit the like on YouTube. Hit the share on YouTube. Subscribe on YouTube. Hit the alert button. And then tell a friend to tune in. Thank you for tuning in. If you created a profile, thank you for coming in there. Each and every one of you, thank you for coming in, sharing a little bit of your time with me. And always remember, thank you, O'Shea and Craig Smith said, dream those dreams, and man up and woman up and lay those dreams. This life without dreams flows in black or white. Life with dreams flows in technicolor surround sound. And y'all already know, if I owe you something, I ain't got it. And if you need it,
Get it from me.
We lust for that cheese, we lose sleep, dreams of that cream. We killing our teens, they dying for this American dream. Them government schemes, they turning us to hustlers and fiends. We hustling trees, them politicians smuggling green. Chasing that cheese, got everybody stressed in the streets. Pardon me for speaking freely, let it breathe. Evangelists preach the congregations out of their seats. They writing them checks for tithes, now it's people can't eat. She stripping for change for school, now she giving them brains. She used to that loot, she earning, now she giving them strain. He new to this game, but hungry, so he cooking his cane. He getting that paper, but then they gave him two to the brain. It's rules to this game, but hustlers never hustle for fame. The spirit of greed is grimy, so we struggle to change. They put us in chains to take away our African names. But if we submissive and don't resist, then who do we blame? It's all a game, man. These Europeans staking they claim. And you a victim of their game plan. You thinking they ain't, you thinking they saints. Remember all them niggas they hang? Killed our women and our children, all our leaders is slain. They gave us Obama, but that nigga was hoping for change. But Zimmerman is killing niggas and he free. Shit is crazy, babies having these babies and getting checked. But keep the child from they pop to rip his heart out his chest. Our rappers was leaders and now they in the booth and the dress. Spitting bullshit and making more but giving us less. They taking our sound and changing ours, dumbing it down. They taking our jobs and homes and they shutting us out. They taking our kids because it ain't a man in the house. They locking us down, but soon they gon' be wiping us out. They told our women they was too independent to need a man. They told our brother he was too insignificant, too vain. It's all a game, man. These Europeans staking they claim. And you a victim of their game plan. You thinking they ain't, you thinking they saints. Remember all them niggas they hang. Killed our women and our children, all our leaders is slain. It's all a game.
We are built for this network, for the strong, not the weak.